Today's panel, we'll focus more on those intersections of technology. But before we start, anyone wants to guess what percentage of the US population has mental health issues? It's actually 5%, which is 57 odd million people that actually have some mental health condition. And 1 in 5 youth have experienced some mental condition while in their teenage years before they become adults and so on. So clearly it's an issue, and we have a very accomplished set of panelists here who have addressed this issue both from technological solutions. All of us, how could we have a conference or a discussion without talking about AI and AV and AR and VR, but also looking at some of those intersections and how other lifestyle and mental health issues are being dealt with. Share with us, what prompted you, what inspired you to be on this journey, and hopefully that'll lead to more interesting conversations. So Dan, take it away.
Founder of Ascendium Tech Advisory, I help healthcare providers and organizations adopt AI solutions, from strategy development and data pre-processing to solution development, implementation, and training. I also serve as an advisor to a portfolio of healthcare IT startups, helping to make sure their solutions and services align with patient and provider needs. I have learned a tremendous amount today. I'm very excited to hear from my fellow panelists, and I'm even more excited to talk about these issues further after the event.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nolie MacDonald, and I founded VRenity March of 2023, and it was definitely kind of my life's purpose leading up to leading that company or starting it. I am a trauma survivor. I went through years of therapy, and through learning those tools, incorporating meditation, positive mental attitude, and really kind of learning the power of the mind and how my love of technology and AI could influence that and intersect wellness really kind of inspired me. And so VRenity is kind of a birthing of all of that. And it's a virtual reality platform that offers a suite of experiences specifically designed to reduce stress. So we have virtual hiking, we have an 8D sound bath for meditation, and we have AI trained life coaching. And so it's really a robust feature to give an all-in-one platform that's accessible and affordable, because I do think that there's a very big lack of availability in the options that are available on the market today that are kind of evangelizing on that AI component. We're seeing more of them come out, and if you know a lot of the mobile apps like Calm and that sort of thing, think of it like that on steroids. It's in VR.
Thank you. It was mentioned in the introduction that a good percentage of people fall sick mentally, which means the developments in science and technology, that they have made communications more comfortable, lifestyle more comfortable still, and in fact, even the food processing industry, different areas have seen wonderful developments which have made life very comfortable. But in one area where science and technology have totally failed, in my opinion, is they cannot provide us the higher wisdom. Science and technology can give us comforts, developments, prosperity, many things, but they cannot give us the wisdom as to how to make proper use of the fruits of the blessings of science and technology, and how to prevent ourselves from abusing the results, the blessings of science and technology. For that, we have to take care of what kind of food we eat mentally, not physically. If we eat bad food, we fall sick physically. Similarly, if we eat bad food mentally, our mind also falls sick. So the sickness of mind manifests in so many different ways. Depression, anxiety, neurosis, and again that very interesting phenomenon called the problems of abundance. You be the richest man in the world, the most powerful man, the best car, the best home, but you need 5 pills a day to get 4 hours of sleep. So science and technology cannot teach us how to make proper use of the tools the science has placed in our hands, and to prevent ourselves from making misuse of the same tools we have in our hands. So that's one area we have to concentrate. Thank you so much. Thank you.
My name is Roopali Rajvanshy. I am the founder of an impact-based organization called Our Cause. It's really Our Cause is about mental health awareness. Everybody's talking a lot about wellness and mental health. What we are doing is creating awareness and acceptance to actually get that help. So research has shown it can take up to 11 years to get the right help. And what we're trying to do is do stories, and through those stories, people are finding out that their journey is not a unique journey. Somebody else got help, so they can get help. And we're really focusing on South Asian community. And I'd love to talk more about, all the technology parts of it also.
So I'll start off with the first two panelists on what are some of the demographic and social barriers that actually influenced the technology solutions that you are working on. Dan, do you want to give a start?
When it comes to demographic barriers, and socioeconomic barriers, as long as, from a tech perspective, as long as they can own a device like a smartphone, what I'm hoping is that the newer technologies like AI, we can sort of quit worrying about slicing and dicing patients up by their socioeconomic, demographics or their personal demographics of race, age, culture, etc. Because when we have as much information as we do available with AI, we can go straight to the individual. Because in no way is ever one demographic, all of the people that make that up exactly the same. They're all individuals. So for example, we could have an app that is providing therapy to a patient. They're going through their exercises. Maybe it's a developmentally disabled person. Right, and they're able to do just fine with some text questions and answers. But the artificial intelligence realizes that they're beginning to struggle with these kinds of questions, or they're taking longer to respond. And it might try and switch to voice, or maybe it tries to switch to symbols, right? So in this way, we don't have to treat everyone or worry about where they fit. We can treat them as individuals.
So you're actually saying that technology will help you and help us really target our solutions and or customize our solutions to the individual.
Exactly right. It makes it personalized to each individual. Because, again, that individual can change from question to question, from situation to situation. And of course, a cohort of people in a single demographic are never exactly the same. So we can go straight. We don't have to use the old ways with our new technologies. We can go straight to the individual.
And then, of course, we can make it even more exciting with
why not put it in VR?
There you go.
Well, just to kind of back up a little bit, when I was in therapy, a portion of that happened during COVID, and we were all forced to be remote, right? And so therapy did go through a screen, and I actually found that I was able to open up and talk about some very difficult things in that setting more easily. It's almost like a cape, like you could open up. And that concept, I definitely am pulling into VRenity in that eventually we plan on building out. Right now it's just AI life coaching, but I don't want to lose the human touch. And so eventually we do want to have a human therapist directory that would be available in VRenity, connecting real therapists that are certified in a variety of fields with patients so that they can work through some of those serious issues. Sometimes AI is the solution. Sometimes you need that human touch. So I think it's important to have both. And as far as the demographics that could be barriers, as far as sometimes people live in the middle of a city, and good luck trying to find a place to meditate, right? I actually visited New York for the first time like a month ago. I'm from Washington, where it's all trees in the Pacific Northwest. I'm like, I could never live in the city like this. But, you know, a lot of people do, and they don't have a sanctuary to escape to, really. And so the idea of virtual hiking, while real hiking would be preferable, it's not always an option. It could be also physical limitations where you can't go. So I think incorporating that virtual reality component, it brings the technology into someone's home to where they can do it from the comfort of their own home and start to work on themselves and start to work towards becoming the best version of themselves.
Great, thank you. Yes, and Roopali, I was going to come to you next to kind of share your community-based
Yes.
experience.
And I also wanted to just add on to what you just said, you know, about the demographics. So we are really focusing on the South Asians, right, the Indian community. And the whole point is that we are the ones who take the longest to accept these things. Just because we care so much about, like, log kya kahenge, you know, what are the other people going to think about us? So we don't talk about it. We talk about our achievements, and who cares about what's going on in the brain when we don't even know what is the vocabulary to get started. You know, as we were growing up in our families, every time we spoke about some things, our parents were like, what is this? You know, stop it, right? Like, we don't even know how do we start going to the next step. And that's why demographics is really important for us. Everybody's building their own communities. There's a mental health for Chinese, there's a mental health for Hispanic community. But talking about mental health in Indian community, the stigma is so large and huge that there is really not much data around it. So that's why demographics is really, really important.
So before we go to solutions, I would really like to hear from Swamiji. What were the drivers that took you to this path of disseminating the solutions that you disseminate through your satsang and everything for mental health?
Yeah. One thing that struck me when I came to this country about 12 years ago, this is a very wonderful country, a very wonderful socio-political, economic experiment in the history of human civilization. And this Bay Area is the most happening place in this wonderful country. Now, one thing that strikes you, this country has succeeded in many, many areas. But as you mentioned, a good number of youngsters suffering from depression. Do you call that experiment very successful, really speaking? You may be a very successful rich person in this world, but if you don't have the mental health to make use of whatever you have achieved in your life, that life is not a great success anyway. So something else is to be added to that. That is spiritual values. I am not bringing God and religion, please don't mind. If I bring God and religion, there may be many controversies on this. I am bringing spirituality. And spirituality in our tradition means something that makes you a better human being. No matter what religion you belong to, or even if you don't belong to any religion, if you be an atheist, an agnostic, you can be a very wonderful specimen of humanity. Buddha is one example, who did not worry too much about a God or creation or anything. So if we can add to this technological experiment, if we can add spiritual values, something that emphasizes that one should become a good human being. I shall try to define what I mean by this good human being, spiritual human being. You should be able to feel a kind of inner contentment, not happiness, contentment. Contentment is different from happiness. Happiness is only a temporary absence of unhappiness in the worldly sense. Only very temporary, momentary absence of unhappiness we call happiness. But contentment goes something beyond all that. When we feel, well, we have done something substantial, something really wonderful, something meaningful, And this can happen to any person, maybe a businessman is investing money for spreading, let's say, education in the backward regions of some distant continents, or maybe you may be donating a check for $10,000 to help people suffering from COVID or some natural calamities in distant places. So when we do this sort of things, what happens is we feel we have done something really meaningful. This is the meaning of spirituality at the personal level. Interpersonal level, it means when people feel happy, when we don't feel any need to be afraid of anyone, and no one needs to be concerned about us. When our presence, our words, life, and activities mean a blessing to everyone around, that is spirituality. This paradigm, this spiritual paradigm should be added to whatever we have achieved in the field of science and technology. And then life becomes more meaningful, more livable. That's what I mean to say.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Roopali, I would like you to maybe share a little more about the community aspect. And is there any use of technology that you have when you conduct your sessions, how you access the community and so on?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because we are actually integrating AI, and I would just say cheekily, human intelligence more, because the community is about all human intelligence, right? So we are using a lot of technology tools because, you know, we're building things on Zoom, we're doing stories on Zoom because people, like we said, right, they're not very comfortable, like how Nolie said. Sometimes you just don't want to face the person and still do the stories. Then we have, you know, experts who are therapists who are evaluating these stories. So we're using a lot of, all the built-in technology as it is, right? So we're using YouTube, we're using, you know, websites. So we're using a lot of homegrown technologies and we put it all together. And it's just a wonderful experience because it's community and technologies, but it's mainly driven by the people.
Give us some use cases of how some of the companies that you're associated with, what are those use cases where AI is being used for mental health, lifestyle, and wellness solutions?
Thank you. I'd like to start out and discuss a few current and near-term AI solutions that are in play, and also try to, at the same time, paint a picture of how they could be used together for a comprehensive solution. Let's start in the office. So imagine we're in an office, there's a psychiatrist and their patient, and there's an AI scribe listening in the background. At the same time, it's referring to previous clinical notes and even the genomic data of the patient. It then, in near real time, provides a recommended personalized treatment plan to the psychiatrist for her consideration. And that same thought process can also apply to a video visit between the patient and provider, and it can also apply to a proxy visit where the patient is dealing with a virtual therapist, maybe in virtual reality, between visits with the actual psychiatrist. But one of the things we're looking at is why stop there? Why not leverage AI's incredible pattern recognition capabilities to not just look at language, but also emotions? It could detect subtle changes in facial expressions, tone of voice and rhythm of speech, and can help identify if a patient, just from those alone, is feeling anxious or sad. And it can then, for the psychiatrist or the therapist, confirm what they're hearing, or maybe let them know that they should dig a little deeper. Now, if we go from, so far we've talked about direct interaction between the patient and the provider, but we're challenging that to go beyond the office and extend their reach into the environment and lifestyle of the patients. Let's consider Raj. He lives here in the United States. He has an elderly mother who lives in India and has been showing signs of depression. Raj, he loves his mother. She lives alone, but he set her up with some smart devices, a smart ring, and he has an application loaded on her phone and laptop so he can see what she's doing. And all of this is connected to an AI solution, an AI platform that ingests all of this data. One day, the AI solution, it identifies that his mother's been staying in bed longer than usual, but she hasn't been sleeping more. It also notices that for 2 days now she hasn't used her smart kettle to do her favorite thing in the world that she normally does every day, which is in the afternoon pour herself a hot cup of tea, fire up Facebook, and look at pictures and comment on new photos of her grandchildren. The AI solution intervenes. It could perform a mood assessment itself, but more importantly, it'll probably contact a local relative and say, hey, could you check in on mom? Alex has mild autism, and he's part of a cutting-edge mental health program. Alex lives alone, but he has a biosensor that he wears that can detect changes in stress hormones. He has smart contact lenses that can detect environmental elements like air quality and light. And he has all kinds of smart home devices, including one that can detect and control the audio in his home. One day, notices that Alex is starting to show signs of anxiety or stress. But better yet, the AI system is able to detect the conditions that are in the environment that typically lead to Alex first experiencing these kinds of symptoms. It then intervenes, slowly dims the lights, slowly lowers the volume of the audio that he listens to, and it sends a signal to his smart wristband that then provides a soft, warm pulse to his wrist, letting him know that it's time for him to practice his relaxation techniques. In summary, for mental health care, AI is an ally. We see it moving from talk therapy to talking, feeling, experiences, and even touching. We see it moving from reactive care to predictive, proactive care. In short, AI is able, by combining these things together in a comprehensive solution, provide a digital safety net for patients between their provider visits. Thank you.
Thanks for those use cases. In a previous avatar, we actually developed a healthcare app that was really targeted to student depression in a California school system, college system. And we thought the app was cool, the administrators thought the app was cool, but the students didn't want to use it because there was lack of trust on who would see the data. So any commentary on the adoption, and is there a difference in adoption rate?
Thank you for that question. There's nothing I love more than talking about behavioral changes in front of a bunch of healthcare providers and life coaches as an IT guy, but I'll go ahead and take a shot. Certainly there's never a risk looking at what gaming does. They're always at the forefront of technology. So as far as adoption goes, I think, earlier I talked about that sensory adaptation, right? Let's go to the individual or socioeconomic, right? We can't just say that all Hispanics are family oriented, okay? Some of them aren't. But as that app interacts with the person as an individual, it can say this particular individual, they would like more local community resources, or maybe they'd like a peer digital group to interact with. Likewise, we can always look at personalization and gamification. That sells. I flew over here from the East Coast, all kinds of people from all walks of life, all kinds of ages, they're playing games. And so one of the things we can do, again, and this speaks to the individual, is do we allow them to customize things like their avatar, the theme of the app, and do we provide rewards? So looking at gamification, do we provide rewards that speak to them as an individual? It might be real-world rewards that tie into the therapy, or it might be digital rewards. Maybe they get to buy skins or different outfits for their avatars, or maybe they get to unlock trophies on their app and show that they've been doing a good job. So I think when it comes to adoption, you always have to look at individual adaptivity of the application. And it never hurts to do customization, personalization, and rewards. People love it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Nolie, what's been your experience with VRenity and the adoption rate?
Well, we're not to market yet, to
Yes,
clarify.
but in your test marketing and talking to people, what have you
Yeah, I
analyzed?
think that, it's definitely a hot topic with privacy issues, especially when you're dealing with HIPAA compliance and that sort of thing. And so it's definitely something that I think it could impact a slower adoption rate because people do not want to give private information to artificial intelligence. But I think we're seeing like people are already doing it whenever they put in something in ChatGPT, right? Same thing. And this is at least doing it to where you're getting like a personalized treatment program, right? That will be ideal circumstances for whatever is going on in your life. With my particular product, we're trying to reduce workplace burnout. And so one thing we're going to have to be very cognizant of is, imagine that you have an employee workforce, let's say the military or law enforcement or doctors or nurses or air traffic controllers, any types of positions that would be deemed really prone for burnout. And they are interacting with Nerdle, who's the name of our AI guide, and that information is captured. But we also want to help not only detect burnout, but prevent it through the experiences that we're offering. That's the goal, right? Is you're trying to prevent something before it happens. And from an employer standpoint, we need to make sure that that information is most definitely anonymized because it wouldn't be moral or ethical to have that information be provided to the employer, right, on an individual basis. Maybe as an overall workforce health score, sure, but not being able to drill down. So that's how it's impacted what I have going on.
Swamiji, what perspective do you have on the youth versus the non-youth in terms of adoption to some of the spiritual tools that you have been talking about?
I've been giving classes on Yoga Sutras and different Sanskrit. Basically, I'm a Sanskritist by that's my a Sanskritist by training. So I used to give lectures on Yoga Sutras and the commentaries on the Yoga Sutras for many years for the students and academics. The program was sponsored by the Stanford Hindu Students Association. It's still going on, Indian philosophy, Buddhism, and so on. So what I found out from our yoga textbooks is that psychological problems or psychiatric problems do not have a solution at psychological level. Psychiatric problems do not have a solution at the psychic level, to be more precise. So, but they have a solution at the spiritual level. But in spirituality, you go beyond mind. So you are linking your mind to something higher than mind. Mind is always fluctuating. Mind is always in a flux. Good thoughts, bad thoughts, happiness, and happiness, it comes and goes. But you are linking your mind to something that is stable. And then mind also becomes stable. So some higher spiritual values. Again, I want to emphasize, I am not bringing religion into this at all because religion and God have got a very bad name in modern times. So I don't bring them here in the picture. What I'm talking about is spirituality.
Yes.
And by spirituality, we can mean some of the higher teachings that you may find in many spiritual books, many holy books. If you look at the essence of these great holy books of different religious traditions, if you go beyond the socio-anthropological diversities, you find there are some fundamental teachings which are really good for humanity in all traditions. That's what I'm talking about. And the essence of this is, when you become spiritual, you become a good human being. In the sense, you feel yourself contented. At the same time, you are spiritual, you are broad-minded, you are friendly, you accommodate you in your reaction in your interaction with other fellow human beings. This is the essence of spirituality. I often give the example of Buddha because he did not believe in a God, but he was one of the most wonderfully spiritual human beings the world has ever produced. So what I mean to say, if we can link our mind to something beyond the mind, that transcends the mind, some higher spiritual ideal, which is beyond mental fluctuations, then it will be very helpful for us to bring in peace of mind. The Susruta Sutra, Samhita, defines prasannatmendriya manaha sustha iti abhidhiyate. So, who is a healthy person? Third and fourth line, prasannatmendriya manaha sustha. He is a healthy person, mentally healthy person, whose mind, thoughts, senses, all his emotional systems are in a state of perfect harmony, peace and serenity. So, that is the essence of mental health. I can give you an example. See, when your body doesn't remind you of its own existence, that's the basic definition of health. If I feel stomach pain, my stomach is reminding me I am here. If I feel headache, my headache is reminding me I am here. But if we can remain in a state of total unawareness, no awareness of body, that's a real state of mental health. So that's an important thing. Actually, when our mind is not dragged by our body into different points of pain and difficulties, the mind is in a healthy state. For that, we have to link our mind to something that is higher than the mind. We may call it, you can call him God, no problem, absolutely no problem if you want. You can call anything for that matter. But the purpose of human life is beyond, it is something more than accumulating wealth, technology, and all. These are necessary. Wealth is necessary, technology is very important, very helpful. But to make our life really meaningful, healthy and happy or contented, we should go beyond that. Without rejecting them, but accommodating all the good things of science and technology, we should have something more added to it. That is this spiritual ideal. That may help us to keep our mind in a state of stability, serenity and harmony. That's all.
Thank you for reminding us that we're all here to make our livelihood and to understand technological advances and at the same time have that spiritual consciousness, which we all seek in our path to happiness. So I'll kind of ask Roopali, you work so much with the community, and to this question of youth, are they more open to some of the solutions that you are offering?
Yeah.
And is there trust? And how do you build that trust?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. We have collected some of the data from our stories, and what we found is 70% of the people who have shared their stories, they feel that a burden has been lifted off their shoulders because they could talk about it and actually get support from the community. And about, I would say like 60% of people, when they hear something that's relatable to their life, they just feel that the loneliness part of it is gone. And that's why I'm saying that the trust is built only when, we get this kind of sampling of the data, and it's real data. And the other point I also wanted to make is that all the stories that we've collected so far from the community, from such a resistant community where we don't want to talk about, our issues in public, they have come from people who I don't know or our team doesn't know. We've met them at a coffee shop. I met some people at the airport. And people are so hungry to share their experiences because they think that, I suffered for such a long time. If my story can help so many more people, why would I not do such a thing? And, so it's just a small act where we can help, from our stories to everybody else in the mental health realm.
So what you're saying is connection is really important.
Connection is absolutely important, and especially for the youth.
I'd like to kind of maybe switch gear a little bit and focus on what are the intersections of technology, mental health, and modern medicine. So we heard a lot about lifestyle choices, wellness, but do you think that there is enough integration with the providers, and I won't name my provider, but I go to my physician, I have some physical illness. Do you see how we can change this trend to also integrating the wellness and the lifestyle and other aspects of medicine? And how will technology play a role in that?
I think it's going to be incredibly tough. Our healthcare system is simply not built like that. It's going to be awfully difficult to get a healthcare organization to change, to try new things. However, we can start smaller. We can, physician-owned practices, they're certainly willing to do what will work and make money, right, and improve outcomes. So I think we're going to see the change in individual practices, and you get enough of them on board, they start making a fuss at the CEO's office in hospitals, and eventually those hospitals will change. Yeah, it would be a tough one for modern medicine to incorporate that. But also think about the demographics. We talked a little bit about how it is with the younger demographic. I think in the United States, I forget now, the percentage was like 30-40% of their time, kids ages 7 to 10 are playing on Roblox. And as they get older, that it decreases a little bit, but they keep playing Roblox even into high school. So as that group of people become patients, they graduate, they're into the workforce, and they become patients, it's plausible that they could demand those sort of remedies and those sort of solutions out of their healthcare system. But it would be a tough one. Change. I think it's change in the healthcare organizations. We talked about the reluctance to change and how do we get people to adopt these technologies. There was a study back in 2006 in the Harvard Business Review. It talked about that people prefer the way they do things now. They prefer that old phone, that flip phone they have. They prefer that 3 to 1. Okay, it's on a factor of 3 to 1. People who are trying to encourage change, they say, hey, grandma, why don't you try out this new iPhone, right? They overestimate how awesome it is by a power of 3 to 1. So when we talk about change, we're usually talking at a minimum a 9 to 1 power of trying that we have to overcome to get people to change. But as people who are accustomed to using these kinds of virtual reality systems, apps, they're online, playing Roblox all the time, etc., hypothetically, they could have the power to change the system. Also, chase the dollar. If physician offices are incorporating it because it's better for their bottom line, it's better for their patients, they actually are pretty strong when it comes to getting hospitals to change. So those are my thoughts. Thank you. Good question.
Well, one thing when you said that question, and it's not in the works yet, but it's something that I'm working with, Dr. Aaron Anderson, who is a neuroscientist at some mental health facilities in Washington State, and we have a patent pending that is really to take brain scans, and it helps you identify how your brain is lighting up in certain areas, specifically the frontal cortex, with certain stimuli. And the idea is that you can then take that information and you can adjust the stimuli in real time to get the desired result. This could be extended to pharmaceuticals. And that's something he's working on. So I do think that there's real application. I also agree that the system is very slow to change. But if there is some play where we can personalize care, especially when it comes to pharmaceuticals, because we kind of throw things at people and say, hey, try this and see if it works, right? But imagine if we had actual qualitative data or quantitative data to back that up. So, sure.
I'd like to ask a question now. Practicing to be a moderator someday when I grow up. But Nolie, you talked about pharmaceuticals. And I used to be in the military. A lot of my friends, colleagues I know from those days, unfortunately, some of them suffer from PTSD. And the psychedelic-assisted therapy has done wonders for them. And I'm curious if you've ever thought of, or maybe you guys are thinking about it in your works, could we replicate that psychedelic, the benefits of a psychedelic trip, to see the interconnectedness of the world, to see God in some sort of virtual reality environment that affects the brain similarly, but without the drugs. Have you heard anything about that? Are you thinking about that?
It's called an 8D sound bath, and it looks like it's out of Avatar, the movie. It's a cave with mushrooms that are 20 feet tall, and they're interactive, and you can play them, and they release frequency noises like singing bowls. And I mean, it's like an ayahuasca experience, essentially. And so I would say, yes, I'm deliberately modeling it after that type of approach, because I do think that there are benefits to it. And if you can achieve the same result without actually taking anything and get kind of transmuted to a new environment that incorporates all of these different multisensory components, then it can really lead to a healing breakthrough.
We started a new series called Chalo Baatein Karein, which is really a community-based discussion in which we get a psychiatrist on board and talking about medication, right? There's so much resistance. First of all, there's so much resistance about accepting your mental health. And then on top of it, when you say that there's medication for it, there is so much resistance. So we are getting psychiatrists who are so overwhelmed with the kind of patients that they're getting, and they're talking with the cultural nuances, and we're doing this Q&A, community-based Q&A, which are talking about their use cases and their, just like what is going on in the community. And that's also showing, when people talk from the experience, without judgment, people are ready to get a little bit more medication help if it's needed.
I have another one for you, Roopali.
Sure.
Because we've been talking about the use of pharmaceutical psychedelic drugs, and then we've gone one step further, saying, hey, we can actually give that same experience through an AR/VR solution, so you really don't have to have an ingestible. So take that one step further to our, let's go full circle. Do you see communities accepting the pharmaceutical drugs, the psychedelic drugs, or that are obviously FDA approved, but...
So I think that is really a complicated question, because mental health disorder is not a linear path, right? It's so complicated. And just to say that, this medication or this experience will fix anything is not the right answer. So you really have to go to your physician, your trusted person who can show you the right path, right? So we all are trying different techniques. And I think none of us have the full answer, but they will all lead to a better lifestyle.
Thank you for that. And, we've obviously heard different perspectives. I would like Swamiji to kind of weigh in on your perspective on where technology is going, the psychedelic certified drugs. I keep being very careful about certification and FDA approval. So with that, I'll hand it to you.
I want to add two more points to what I was saying earlier, what I said earlier. One is, I have quite a few friends who come to Vedanta Society or monastery, who are professional doctors, who give classes on mindfulness in medical institutions, But something that I noticed, they talk about mindfulness, but they never talk about the original teacher of mindfulness, Lord Buddha. Now, mindfulness is nothing but a discourse by Buddha, and that discourse is called Sadivatana Sutta in Pali language, which is still available in... Now, suppose you teach mindfulness without mentioning a wonderful example who practiced, a great man who practiced this mindfulness for the first time, Buddha. What happens, it becomes an idea that's floating in the air. When you don't connect a great spiritual ideal with the person who exemplified, who embodied that teaching, like Buddha, what happens is you are getting an outer shell of the original stuff. So some kind of teaching or awareness of the sanctity and sacredness of the teaching in the context of everyday life, that would be very helpful. a sense of sanctity and sacredness will always have a healing effect on the human mind, to be very frank. You know, in tradition we say to work is to worship. Now, if you divide work from worship, you worship in the sense any spiritual practice. You may be meditation, you may be prayer, whatever you may be. But in the broader sense, it means just some spiritual discipline, whatever it could be, in any tradition. Suppose we work for 16 hours or 15 hours of the day, and then we meditate for 15 minutes. What happens, Draw a line of demarcation between the secular and spiritual. I am working in my office, and then I'm praying in the morning and evening. Now, in yoga tradition, in Vedantic tradition, there is the ideal work is worship. Every activity is a kind of worship. When you treat a patient in the hospital, when you do research in the laboratory, when you are attending a conference on medical topics, that itself is a kind of worship. Worship is not what you do in a temple or a church. Worship is what you do when you treat a patient in the hospital, or when you teach in a university, or when you work in a factory. That is also a kind of worship. So the word worship extends beyond these conventional definitions. So that will have a healing effect on the human mind, and we will never mentally fatigued. We become fatigued only when we become aware that we have done something that we didn't want to do. If you can enjoy doing what you're doing, and if you can continue doing what you're doing with a sense of sanctity and sacredness, total identification, that's the real meaning of mindfulness. So these ideals can have a healing effect on the human mind in modern times. You need not even be a conventional believer in God or a church goer or a temple goer, not at all. We can practice spirituality in the broader sense even when you're practicing medicine in a hospital, you're treating a patient, even doing a surgery, that's a kind of worship.
I would like each one of you to just sum up what you think in 2 words. Just use 2 words that come to mind when you think about this topic, because that could be, very useful. What's top of mind, Swamiji? 2 words from you.
Healthy mind.
3 words. Don't be alone.
She did 3. I'm going to do 3 myself. So you just open that door. All this cool stuff, I would be remiss without saying that it's going to fail without being structured, seamless, and secure. Make sure you're doing those things.
Stay positive. Everything in our body and everything that really manifests in our lives starts with the mind.
Thanks again. I want to thank Sai Gundavali for putting up this amazing conference, and without your sponsorship and leadership, we wouldn't be here today.